Hey, who's ready to learn Groovepages? Kevin here with Groove Tutorials and Your Best Groove, and in the next hour, I'm going to walk through step by step how to build a lead generation funnel using Groove as your tool. But before we get there, make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the tutorials coming out here at Groove Tutorials. Let's get right into it and learn how to use Groovepages. Here's what I want to do to begin with. I want to talk about the funnel and what we're going to be building today. We're going to build a landing page, which would be, in this case, we're going to be giving away a free lead magnet. It's a landing page that describes why they would want it. Then we're going to build a thank you page, which after they opt in, they're going to get the thank you page. We're going to talk about how to build the form to add the tag and add the list. And then we're going to have on our email, we're going to have a button for a download of the PDF. So you might have a different lead magnet, but for today, we're building a lead generation, I call it machine, which is going to let people come to our page, put their name and their email address in, and then automatically in the back end, they're going to receive an email from us, and they're going to get in the email a button where they can download. In order to do that, we need to build some things for the back end first. We go back and you look at that. These are the things that are part of it. But what we want to do first of all is we want to build the opt-in form, which is built, as you can see at the top there, in Groove Mail. One of the things that is, I think, helpful to understand is how do all the pieces, all of the apps fit together. So we're going to first create an opt-in form that adds the tag, adds them to a list, and sends a welcome email. But what that email is going to also have is a button for a download. And we put the file, the PDF, or whatever you're delivering inside of Groove Member. So that's where we store lead magnets that we're going to give to people or even sell to people if we're selling ebooks or things like that. We're going to store it in Groove Member. Here's pieces of our funnel if you want to look at it this way. Groovepages is where we're going to build the landing page and the thank you page. And then Groove Mail is where we're going to build the opt-in form and do the adding them to our contact list and sending an email to them. And then in Groove Member is where we have the file where they're going to be able to download it. So we need all of those three pieces to be set up and working in order for us to have a functioning lead generation machine. What I like to do is, first of all, build the Groove Member piece with you because these are very quick. And then second, build the Groove Mail form. And then third, we'll build the pages. The reason being, once we build the pages, we don't want to have to go back and do backwards things, if you will. So we're going to build from the ground up so that when we build the pages, everything's in place for us to complete the project. All right. So the first thing that I'm going to show you today is, let's say we have a PDF and we want to get it ready so people can receive it via a link in an email. Okay. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go into Groove Member, and from here, we're going to upload our file. So this course assumes that we're delivering a lead magnet that is a PDF. If you're delivering a free course, it has a little bit, it doesn't need this part because you don't have a file to upload. You're delivering a free call. Again, you don't need this, but I want to show you where to put your files when you're going to deliver a digital file. So I'm going to click on Files inside of Groove Member, and I'm going to click Upload, and I'm going to say free 20-step sheet, and I'm going to select the file. So this will be the PDF that we upload into Groove Member. We click Open, and now we're at the spot where we've named it, and we're going to click Upload File. So remember, the purpose of this was to just create the link that we're going to use in the email when we send out their thank you for signing up email. So we're going to grab that link. Once it's uploaded, we're going to go grab the link by saying copy URL. And you can see that the URL is copied there with a little green thing at the bottom. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to just a text file, and we're going to create a new one. And I'm just going to take that link and paste it here. So I have it for when I need it later. So first piece, we've uploaded the file and we've created the link, and I just save it in a text file so I have it when I'm ready. That gets us our first step. The second step is we're going to build our opt-in form in Groove Mail, and we're going to add a tag, add it to a list, and add a welcome email. So let's head into Groove Mail, and let's just go back to our dashboard, and we'll go into Groove Mail. And from Groove Mail, the first thing we're going to do today is create a form. Now, important point is some of the steps that we do today, you won't be able to do until you have done some basic set inside of Groove. So one piece of basic setup you will have to have done is you will have to have created a list, and you're going to name your list, and it's going to be a place for your contacts to reside inside of GrooveMail. If you don't have a list, you can't set up the form because the form requires you to add the person to a list. The second thing you can choose to do, but you don't have to do the piece we're doing today, is set up your categories and your tags. And then the third thing that is important you have to do if you want to send an automated email is you have to set up a sender. Now, I'm cruising past those today because if we took the time to go through all of that, you would never see the rest of this build. So you may have seen it in the pre-workshop video. You are going to get bonuses. At the end, I'm going to give you a link where you can sign up for bonuses, which you're going to get the details on how to do those pieces. You're going to get details on how to name your lists. It's really important that you start your lists knowing how to name them, how to name your categories and your tags, and what's the best practice for those. And we have a video from Donna Fox explaining that. You're going to also have access to a way to set up your sender. And just for your information right now, I don't ever set up a customer or advise using the GrooveMail SMTP. As you see right here, that's described in those details, but I give you a free guide on how to set up Amazon as your SMTP, and you can follow it step by step and get that done. Having said that, you have to have those pieces completed in order to do the steps that I'm going to show now, which is build a form. We're going to start by building a form, and we click on the Forms tab here. We click on Forms, and we're just going to click New Form. We're going to call this September 2023. You would obviously name the form lead generation information that you're going to use it for. So save and continue. And essentially, Groove is going to come up with adding the email and the first name automatically to the form. Now, when you do this, if you follow along or if you go afterwards on the replay and you go to do this yourself, yours is not going to look like this because there's a default format that Groove has, and I've already changed that default. So it has my orange button and some things that I want on my default forms. But a couple of things you can do here when you're in this spot of build form, when you're on this tab, you can add a field and you can add standard fields. For example, we could add the last name to the form. You can move the fields around on the form if you want to. You can add custom fields. So I'm going to go down here to custom fields. Let's say like, I'll just show you a drop down, save. What state do you live in? And then this could give different states. You can click on a field and delete it. So what came up there when I clicked on this custom field, I can delete it. I can edit some of the information about it. So I'm going to delete that one. I'm going to get rid of the last name as well. Now, you can delete the first name. You cannot delete the email field. That's simply by design, right? Because if the purpose of this form is to gather an email, you can't send an email to somebody. So you could make a form with just the email address on it if you want to. You can set them as required or not required in the settings in the form. You can also get rid of these headers if you want to. If you'd rather put different headers, different styles, you can do that here. So you get a little trash can when you click on the header because there's not as much formatting that we can do here as you can do inside of Groovepages. And you can add another header by going to the bottom of this. You can add a heading, subheading, or a paragraph. Let's add a paragraph. And now we have this, we could actually put it right here and say, we respect your privacy, and whatever you want to say there. So you have three kinds of text fields that you can add. But what we're going to do is we're going to go from here because we cannot change the colors. We cannot change the style. We can only change the content of the form at this place. So we're going to click next. Now it looks the same, but we have just been given some access to new items. So if we go over here to the left, we have templates, presets, and settings. And I'm going to breeze over this as well because I have a video that's in the bonuses where you can find out more about the details. My purpose today is to get through it so you can see how to build it and get it on your page. If you want to find out about editing this form, if you click on it, you're going to see that, for example, we can change the background color of the form. So I'm just going to do that here. We can change the text color. I'm just going to do that here. Christmas is coming, and we can put an image in the background. This is all of the functionality we have now that you see Once you're in the design area, you see that when you click on it, and we have, and I probably just updated my defaults, headings, subheadings. We can format all of these to be whatever colors that we want. We're changing now, I guess filled in. We're changing now the style or the look of the form. Once we're done with that, we click next. All right. At this point in the setup tab, we start to tell Groove, what are we going to do when somebody comes and fills out this form? What will we do with them? So the first thing we do is we add them to a list, which is again, why we have to have an actual list to put them on. So I'm just going to go use the example list. And that means when you or anybody fills out this form on my site, you're going to be put onto the example list or your main list or your newsletter list, whatever you call it. We can choose to assign a tag. This is a great place to tag people who, chose to download this lead magnet. So I'm going to go select the tag and I'm going to say, I believe I have one. Yeah. So somebody downloaded the 20-step cheat sheet. So I'm going to mark them as having done that when they use this form to download the cheat sheet. We can subscribe them to a sequence of emails, which, one a day, one every 2 or 3 days. This is the warm-up sequence when somebody gets your lead magnet. I'm going to skip that for now. We can also do single or double opt-in, and I'm going to show you single opt-in today. Again, choosing the fastest path, the path of least resistance, if you will, to getting us onto the build. We can change the URL, and this is where are people going to go after they've filled out our form. So if you don't have that when you set this up, you can plan it, whether it's built or not. So I could say yourbestgroove.com/cheat sheet, thank you. And then even though that's not built, I'm just going to copy that and put that on my text edit as well. So I have that later to make sure I use the same URL for my page that I'm building so that I make sure I'm sending it to the right place. Now we have the option of sending them an email or not sending them an email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them an email. It's going to choose the sender. My default is my Amazon sender. And I'm going to say, here is your cheat sheet. We can use the professional email editor, and I'm just going to go in briefly and show you that it's the drag and drop editor, and you can use any of those templates. If you want to start with a template, I'm going to show you an empty one. This is the drag and drop. We can put a title in here. We can put a paragraph in here. We can put an image in here. And so you can use this if you want it to be a little bit more fancy, look a little bit nicer. By the way, you can also use this to create what's not really a fancy looking email, but it gives you a nicer way to add images and buttons. So adding a button in the professional builder is nicer than adding a button inside of the basic builder. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use the professional builder, and I'm going to say, dear, and then I'm going to put in the merge tags, first name. And I'm just going to type text here. Thank you for, I'm going to type my email. And I'm going to say, click the button below to download your free cheat sheet. Okay. Now you can set, I have an image in here. I'm going to delete that because I just dragged it on there so you could see it. I'm going to take this button, and now I say download here. And with a button, we have configuration options over here on the right. So here's where we're going to use our first piece that we got from Groove Member. So remember, we uploaded it, and then we got the URL, and this was my URL that I got from Groove Member. So that's why I saved it. I can go here, paste it in the URL. You can do quite a few things with the button here. I'm just going to leave it as is, except I'm going to change the color so it matches my brand. And that's it. You can type, lots of things. You can put, sometimes I like to put at the end of it, put a little bit more text in here with a signature, Kevin at your best groove. Then go over here. This is going to browse your Groove library. We'll just use my Groovy Greta picture. And you can say, I don't want this to be that big. I want it to be that big, and put it on the left. So you can put a signature with your picture on the bottom of your email. Now, something important to know is Groove is going to automatically add an unsubscribe. You don't have to manually do that. So essentially, you cannot send an email without having the unsubscribe on it, which is the way I think all email services work. So you won't see it here, but it's going to show up on the email when you go to send it. So at this point, if you want to, you can go say, what does this look like on mobile versus desktop? But we're done. I'm going to click save and exit. It's going to ask me, what kind of an email is this? And you can set up categories here if you want to use different categories. I'm going to use default, and I'm going to say cheat sheet September and save it. And we're going to come right back to where we were in the process of building the form. Okay, so we have done that process of setting up our email. If I showed you the basic email, you would see that it's just text. You're just typing in text like you would with probably your Google Mail, any kind of a mail client. It's a basic editor. Really important at the bottom. Send by SMS. You can send text message. You have to set up Twilio as an account that goes through. It's the SendGrid. Twilio is the same company now, so I won't go through that. But you can do it if you've collected their phone number. You can send them a text message, which is very nice. Forward responses. If you don't go down here and turn this toggle on, you will not get any notification that somebody filled out your form. It gives you two options here. You can send it to the current account's email, which is the email address you have on your Groove account, the email address you log in with. This is the quickest way to get responses. If, however, you want those responses to go somewhere else, there is a place where you can set up recipients. Oh, look at that. I love finding new things when we work on the live. So you used to not be able to add the receiver, but you can add new recipient, put the name and the email in. It requires you to confirm that. But once that is confirmed, if you have a virtual assistant or if you have somebody else on your team, you can send to any email address that you want to. So if this were my assistant, I could say, send it to my basic email address and send it to this address as well. But the point is, you have to turn this on or choose a recipient or you won't get your notification. And your notification is a kind of a simple text message. It says, somebody filled out your form and here are the details that they put in the form. So we're going to click next. All right, we have a list of integrations that we can use directly from the form. So one thing we can do, I mentioned if you're giving access to a membership or an online course. So if I wanted to give away the free 5 things everybody should know about Groove, which is essentially, we're going to cover that in just a minute. I can say add new membership, find the membership, choose the access level, 5 things free, and click add. So what's going to happen is, at the moment they fill out the form and click submit, Groove is in the back end going to give them the access to the membership so that they immediately have access to the course that you gave them as a lead magnet. So that's one of the integrations, and you can add multiple memberships. So second thing is you can use integrations that you've set up. These are external integrations like Zapier or MailChimp or Aweber. You can use a webhook, which is an even more complex integration, or you can deliver files. So you could actually go in here to the file I just uploaded and select it and say select. And you can see that you can add multiple files, one at a time. Good to know. So what this will do, and this is extremely speedy, everybody, but it is a completely non-branded, kind of a bland email that says, here are your files. And it's essentially embedding that link that we created automatically for you. So I pretty much never use this, but you can, because I'm going to put the link, as you saw in the email. But those are some integrations that we can set up that will automatically fire as soon as somebody fills out the form. And the final thing is, you can use this embed code using whatever styles you set up. This is primarily for if you're going to embed this on a WordPress site or some other site that you have that you want to connect with GrooveMail, you can grab this code and embed it into another site, and you'll get this functioning form onto your site. So I am going to say finish, and we have built our form. And that's it. That's how we build a form. You can see now that we've set up GrooveMail, we set up our link in GrooveMember, we've set up our form, we've added a tag, we've added it to a list, and we've set up our welcome email. So we are now ready to start building our pages. Before we build anything, I want to talk about the structure, breadcrumbs, screen sizes, and settings so that you have really the foundations of how Groovepages works, which will, I think, really relieve some stress and confusion as you go along. So let's talk about the structure of Groovepages. So when we talk about structure, there are 3 main elements that it's important to understand. So the first thing is every page has a block. The first element is a block. So you cannot have anything on your page if you don't have a block on your page. So click the button below to add a block to the canvas. Obviously, we can't do anything else. You can't go over here and drag text on here. So we're going to click plus. I'm going to go find an empty block. And once that's added, you'll see that you can't tell it's a block, but if you hover over here and click, this is my block. It's essentially a section of the page. And you want to think about a block as a sort of a logical gathering of content. So if we were to go over to my website, this section right here that says build your business, you can see it's a little bit different color. That's one block. Then we have another block that talks about the, introducing us as the best out there. The next one is Mike. And so you can see the blocks are sort of logical, done for you services. Here are the things we do with some calls to action. We have other blocks down here with testimonials and everything. So that's how you think about blocks inside of your funnel. So the first important element, or the first important piece, is blocks. Now, inside of blocks, we're going to have containers that are going to be the next level. So remember, I said you can't have anything on your page without a block. You also cannot have anything on your page without a container. So anytime you add a block, it's going to automatically bring a container in. And I call this the base container for the block. And so no block can exist without a container. Every block has a container. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little spacing in here so we can start to see how these things work. So now you can see my block. I'm also going to change the background so we can see a little bit better. So the blue, the dark blue, is the entire block. The empty container came in with the block. So we have blocks. The second one is containers. So containers hold all of the elements, and the elements are listed over here on the toolbar on the left. I'm going to click on that, and we can see the elements, all of the elements that are available. So we have text, lists, buttons, media, form, and so forth. And all of these are draggable. So you choose any of these that you want to. I'm just going to grab an H1 text and pull it over. And you can see that the pink is, you see the dotted line, that's the container that we're putting it in. And the little pink area, which is at the top of that, right there, that's where I'm dropping it. If I had more containers, you could see it move around. Now, you can't see it because my text is black. I mean, you can see it, but it's not good. So I'm going to change it to white. And again, just to make this a bit more readable, this is text element inside a block. A container inside a block. Okay. And we're going to talk about formatting text later. Now, you notice that the background of the container was transparent. So now everything on the block has this color, and you can change that if you want to. But what we have now, if you think about the layers, we have text inside a container inside a block. So blocks, containers, and elements. Now, where you want to start putting things across the page, columns and things like that, if you want to put things side by side, there are advanced ways to do it. I'm going to teach you the basic way to do it. And that is, containers are their own special element. And so we can put containers in containers in containers in containers. So this is how we start to build structure that's not just one piece of text all the way across. I'm going to go grab a 2-column layout, and I'm going to pull it in. And you can see I can put it above, or I can put it below the text. I'm going to put it below the text. Might be hard to see that, but the little pink bar is below, and drop that in. Now you'll see that this layout, this 2-column layout, brought 2 empty containers in. So again, we can't put anything in there unless we have a container to hold it. And what the layout does is it gives us 2 containers. And by the way, it automatically pops them on top of each other when we go to mobile, which is one of the most important features of layout, besides making our site look great. So now I'm going to go get an element, and I'm just going to go grab a square image for over there and a round image for over here. I'm going to update these so you can see what this looks like. There we go. Plus this one. And I'm getting into all of the, don't worry about the speed of what I'm doing this right now. All right. So what we have now is down here, we have an image inside that container. Remember, we had a container on this side, which is inside the layout 2x2, which is inside the main container, which is inside the block. So blocks, containers, and elements, and we can nest them inside of each other. Let me just show you one more example of nesting elements. I'm going to take a 3-column, and I'm going to put it inside the left-hand column of the 2-column. So you can see I'm dropping it there below the plus icon. So now I could take this, duplicate it, and I could just put 3 of these in here if I had arrows or something like that.
I had a quick question for you, Kevin.
Sure.
In building some of my pages, I have unknowingly put a container within the container, but the original container is just still blank. So it's like the breadcrumbs. I got container, container, container.
Yep.
It's screwing up my mobile part. So how do you unnest, remove a container within a container within a container that's not, by design?
Yep. So I'll show you. So we're going to go put a container inside the main container. And this would be probably an example. You probably then have something inside that container. So, which brings us to, thank you, Darren. I think it was Darren who was speaking, brings us to breadcrumb, which is the second thing. So what Darren was saying is down here at the bottom of the page, you're going to see your breadcrumbs. And so you can see that the text is inside a container that's inside a container. And you saw me drag that in. The container that I dragged in, you can't see it on the page because it's just a regular old container inside a container, but you can see it on the breadcrumbs. And how do you fix that, or how do you remove that? So on the text, I'm going to navigate. There are two ways to navigate to the next level up, is what I call it. So I can click on this, and now my toolbar has that container selected. Oh, I might have to go back. I see what you're saying. So I was going to move it. I already have another container down here, which I could have. I'm going to make it more like what I think yours is. Probably more like this. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yep. So I would just say this, first of all, how is it messing up your mobile?
I don't know. When I go down to mobile and I look at the outline of the container, one's centered, the other's shifted far to the left.
Okay, well, I'm going to get into that, Darren, because you're using spacing instead of layout to do what you want to do. So it shouldn't cause a problem. If it's built correctly, it shouldn't cause a problem. To your question, how do you move it out of the main container? Actually, you can't, because we only have one container in here. What you can do is you can go here. Let's go to the text. Let's go to this container, and let's change the size of the container. This will help us see what we're doing. All right. So I'm only doing this, and I'm also going to change the color so you can see. So let's make the background whatever. All right. So what we just did is we changed the background of this second container, and you can see it has the outline. If we go up one level, we'll see the main container. What you can do is drag this text out of, you see how the outline changed?
Yeah.
So now I'm dragging the into the main container. Now you can see this extra container, and I can delete it.
Okay, thank you.
That's the main thing. There are other ways to move it, but I think that probably fixes your problem. But I think you only have a problem because you're using spacing incorrectly. Not effectively. I should say not effectively. Spacing is spacing. So yeah. So blocks, containers, elements, breadcrumbs. Let me show you one other thing about breadcrumbs. I said you can go up a level or two or three, however far you want to get to the thing you want to edit. You can also, every time you have a element selected, there's a up on the element toolbar, there's an up arrow. This will take you up one level to the container or to the element that's holding that. And so you can see we did the same thing there. So breadcrumbs are critical. And here's why. If you look at this right here, you might say, you know what, I want a different background on this text. And so we go to text and we change the background to green. And it's like, oh, that's okay. But now if you at some point run into spacing and you want to put spacing inside that entire area, now it's limited to the text. And if you intended to put the background on this larger element, this is where breadcrumbs comes in. So what you would want to do is check your breadcrumbs. What am I editing right now? What am I changing the size of? Where am I putting my spacing? And make sure that you put your spacing exactly where you want it. So especially when you're starting out, always check your breadcrumbs and make sure you're editing the actual element that you want to edit, where you want to put the backgrounds and so forth. All right. So Darren said that when he gets to mobile, it looks bad. And so I'm going to do something here. I'm going to go to text and I'm going to put spacing out here, and I'm going to move it so it looks great on my desktop. Not really, but you get the idea, right? So if I do this, what I'm going to find is when I go over to my mobile, it's not even there. And what I've done is I've used spacing incorrectly. So I'm going to show you a little bit about spacing while we're building principles that you should or shouldn't do. So the correct way to have done this would have been to put a two-column container, a two-column element in here, and then taken my text and drug it into this container. But you see it has a problem, right? Because I just put all that spacing in there. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I've done the same thing. Matter of fact, when you're building, if you see this is an empty container, you won't see it on what you've built. Now, if I go back to my mobile device, I haven't lost it. So spacing tends to be the biggest issue that causes those mobile issues. And that's why I'm going to show you how to build so that we don't have to do much when we come to optimization. And a lot of it, you just write this down. A lot of it, you basically put a big sign up. Do not use spacing. Sometimes you have to, but spacing to push things across the page is generally a bad idea. So this is why we want to know we're editing the right thing. If we wanted to put space in the container, that would have been fine, but That's what you find. Know where you're at on your breadcrumbs and screen sizes. So I just showed you that we come over here to mobile. What I'm going to show you next is I'm going to put this back the way it was, which was incorrect, right? So this was the first example of you click on the text and you go over here to mobile, it's gone. It's actually not gone. It's just pushed off the screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, make sure I have text selected because I can see it in the desktop. I'm going to go to the mobile, the smallest screen size, and turn this toggle off. You should notice that this now says I'm going to apply these changes just to the mobile device. If I have it on, it's going to apply it to all devices. If I have it off, it's just going to apply it to the mobile device. So now with the text selected, even though we can't see the text, now I can go over here to spacing, pull that back, and I just pulled it onto the page. You see what happened there? But I didn't change it on mobile. It stayed where it was. And so this is the process. There's a little glitch. If you ever see something like that, don't panic. Just zoom out of your browser and it typically will show you this has been there from day one. But you can see, well, this is another one where we would want to remove some of that. So, we might want to do this. Again, spacing isn't the way to do this, but I'm showing you how you can change things on one screen only. So screen sizes, typically what you should do is this is the way I advise people, build a beautiful desktop. And at the end of your build, go back screen by screen and optimize so that you get good look on every screen. Now, the things that won't change if you have this toggle off are things like spacing, size, and layout, basically kind of the positioning or the size of an element. Those, if you have this turned off, they'll only change on one screen. If you go into text and say, this is a beautiful element, I just changed the text with the toggle off, that's going to change everywhere. When you change text, you change text. So you can't put different text by this method on different screens. You can do it, but that's an advanced topic. I want to show you just a few places for settings before we get into actually building our page. And there are three places for settings. So when you're inside of Groovepages, you're going to click on settings and billing. And this is primarily I'm showing you because this is where you work with your domains. So you can see this is your custom domains. And this is where you go through the process of adding and editing and working with your domains. So site settings is over here on the top right, settings and billing, and you have your domain. You also have your integrations here if you are going to integrate with something like Zapier or MailChimp or ActiveCampaign. Those get set up here in site. Sorry, these are account settings, not site settings. Account settings, overall account settings. The second place is when you're in a website, if you go to the left, to the toolbar on the left and click the bottom gear, which is settings, you can see that we have page settings and site settings. So page settings is going to have things like the name of the page or class, the URL of the page. Remember when we were over earlier on and we put in the form the URL that we were going to put that page at? This right here, cheat sheet, thank you. Let's see if I can blow that up. Well, I'm blowing everything up. Okay, it doesn't work. This is the URL that goes after the actual domain, your customdomain.com/. This is automatically there. If you want to change the URL of the page, this is what you would put here. This is where you would put your URL. I don't know why this is not selecting. So this is where you can change that. This is what shows up at the top right here. You see calendly.com/event types. That's the URL we're changing right here. So you can change that. You can change your metadata. This is where you change your SEO, your open graph. You can put some styling, tracking codes go in here and so forth. That's the page settings. You also have site settings, which is where you can change the name of the website. The favicon is going to show up here in the tab, and then you have SEO settings for the whole site as well. So I just want to be aware where those settings are because we're going to look at them a little bit when we get into the build, which is now for you. All right, let's go to Groovepages and add our landing page and our thank you page and get into the meat of this session. So let's go to Groovepages and we're going to start with a new site. And let's see, let's go inside of Groovepages and click new site. And so if you're just beginning, you'll see that it's going to come up with lots of options. If you see premium on it and you're a paid member, by the way, if you're not a paid member, it just means you're not going to be able to use these and you lose some functionality, but you should be able to do pretty much everything I'm doing today. So you can start with a complete site. As you can see over here, you can start with a single page. You can start with funnels, which is going to give you a couple of pages already added. So you can see underneath it, it says 3 pages. If you want to click on it, you can see the pages. There's the landing page, there's the thank you page, and you can do a live preview if you want to. It's very similar to using sort of a WordPress templates where you can go take a look at everything that's on it. So you choose your template. And today I'm going to I'll choose this really simple lead magnet funnel. You can choose based on color if you don't want to change a lot. You can also choose based on content if it looks more like what you want. So I'm going to choose this lead magnet funnel. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to say I want both pages, the landing page and the thank you page. Select all, and then I'm going to say import selected pages. And then you're going to name the site. And let's talk real briefly about sites. Site in Groove is a collection of pages that will all be published on the same domain. So yourdomain.com, anything you want to be on that domain, including funnels, including webinars, including opt-ins, the whole website, all of those pages are going to be put into the same site. And that site will have a name. So this would be, your domain or welcome to my site or whatever you want to call it. But that's what you would name your. So you can see we have a really basic landing page here. I mean, it's really short, which I kind of do in these builds just to speed things up. And one of the things that I noticed right away is this doesn't have a logo. So when you have a template that has a logo on it, when we talk about images, the first thing I want to talk about is logos, because logos are just images. They're just kind of a special kind of image. They're even not even a special kind of image. They're literally just an image. So they work the same way any image would work. So when you come in, you'll typically see the template version of the logo instead of this blank thing. It'll actually have an image on it. So what you want to do to get your logo in here is click on the image, go to the toolbar, the element toolbar, click on the gear and go to choose. It's going to bring you into your library of images. And if you are like me, you've been working for 3 years, you have thousands and thousands of images in here, which are not organized, and you can't organize them. You can't do folders and all that stuff. But this is where you go. So for the first one, let's assume we don't have the image in our library. So to fix that, we go to upload image, and then we go to our hard drive, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this one. It's going to show uploading. It shows up now with this glowy pink outline, which means it's already ready to add. We're going to say select on the upper right, and you can see it shows up in here all squished. Don't worry about that. That's because it's just a square to show us. We click update and close, and now my logo is on the page. So it's too big. So how are we going to resize this image? So I'm going to go over here to size. So let me say this about the style bar that's on the right. You might see it this way. You might not see it at all. So when you click on any element, it's going to pop out at least this far. And this is the, sort of minimized version of it. You can see if you hover over it, it will tell you what it is. And you can actually click on it and make changes. For today, I'm going to go up here and click this pop out arrow so we can see the names of what we're working with. So I'll go over here to the style bar and I'm going to choose size. And this is the primary way we change the size on elements. When I say we, I have 3 different teams of people now that are working with us and doing done for you builds. And we have standard operating procedures. So we drop width down, choose relative to parent, and we're going to get a slider bar here, and we can slide this to where we want it. Relative to parent means relative to the container that's holding it. So the next level up. So whatever size that would be. For example, if I go to the container that's holding this and I change its size, do relative to parent on that, you can see that it changes the size of the image as well, because the image is relative to the parent container that it's in. So just so you know, if you want to use fixed width, you can. We generally use relative to parent and only the width. Don't mess with the height. Don't mess with anything else, just the relative to parent. That's going to let you change the size. Now, this image, you'll notice on my page, is centered. That's because I brought in a pre-formatted block. Had I not brought in a pre-formatted block, it would have looked like this. And not only that, this block it would have looked like this. So this is where the question comes in, Becca. How do you center an image? So very, very important. You can go to the image, choose spacing, choose the margin outside, and push it across the page. Multiple problems with this. First of all, you're guessing. You don't know where it should be. So let's say 356, and then let's zoom out so we can see the whole desktop here, 356, because it's inside of this limited area. But when I go to mobile, I'm going to zoom back in. You see where it's at? It's pushed completely off of the mobile. And this is the frustration. Had I gone even further, then I would have pushed it off the page. For whatever reason, if I wanted it over here, right? I wanted it over on top of this, a button or whatever. I go back here, you can't even see it. So what is the right way to center an image? Go up one level to the container that's holding it. Always to the container that's holding it. What I'm about to do, you cannot do unless you are on a container. So we're going to go up to the container. We can choose the up arrow or the container this way. We're going to go to layout on the style bar. And if you just want to do it quickly, these are the two buttons you have to push: vertical and second from the left on secondary. And you notice that there's left, center, right. Now, when I go to mobile, it's centered because the container is what's doing it, not the image. If I click on the image and do layout, you won't see that. You don't see the option to center it. It would be great because I know in some builders, it is possible on something like this, an image or an element, to tell just the element. I want the element on the left, center, or right. But the way we do it in Groove is go to the layout of the container, vertical, second from the left.
Primary versus secondary.
So I knew that was coming next. What I'm going to do to show that is I'm going to put two elements inside the same container. So let's do this with some colors so we can see what we're working with here. All right. So I've got a container. It's got two elements in it. I'm going to go to the container again and go to the layout, and you'll see what the difference is. So let's see. I need to do it even more. Let's do this. Let's take this to fixed height. Okay, there. Perfect. And it's perfect for our example. All right, so here we got a container. It's got two elements in it, and they currently are sitting at the top center of the container. So on layout, when we are in vertical mode, vertical says every element inside this container is going to be stacked on top of each other, vertically positioned in the container. If I change that to horizontal, you'll see that they go beside each other. So when we're in vertical mode, primary is top, middle, or bottom. Secondary would be the horizontal. So secondary is left, center, right. If we put it in horizontal mode, it reverses. So then primary is left, center, right, and secondary is top, middle, bottom.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. So that's why I say if you just want to center, a really easy way is just say vertical, second from the left. But it is good to know these things because as you see, if I want it centered top and bottom and left and right, then I need to use primary and secondary, no matter which way I'm doing that. Let's say you don't want to see this logo on your mobile device. You can go to layout for the container, not the image. Actually, you can do it for the image. Sorry. You can do it for the image. Go to layout and say none. Can't see that. And you see how it graded out and it put check marks. That means it's going to show up. Well, actually, I changed all the screens. So I made a problem there. I didn't uncheck this before I made the change. But you see, if apply it just to one, this is how you can put something on one screen size, but not have it on another. But that's really the only time I advise anybody mess with layout at this point. All right. So we added an image. We worked at centering it. I just want to show the process. If it's already in your library, it's just a simpler, you skip this upload, you just select it and you're going to have the same process. So now we have put my header on the page and we've kind of talked about images. Let's talk about just adding them to the page because I actually did it and I did it quickly. So I'm going to just delete this and go back to where we were with the empty container. So adding it to the page, we click on elements, click on media, we choose image or round image, we drag it over, find the pink, you see the outline with it, drop it in there, and now we just go through the process. So this is a placeholder image, go to the gear, choose, select, update and close. And I lost my spacing because I deleted it, size and because I deleted it and brought it in again. All right, let's talk about text. First of all, with text, you can just change it, right? You can just type over it and start editing this text element. Let's look at several other things that you can do with text. So text over here on the style bar has its own area where you can drop it down and you have all of these settings that are only available for text. So first of all, we can change the weight, which we can make it very bold. We can make it very thin using whatever font. We can change the color. And again, I just picked any old colors on here. Color, though, let's talk about it for a little bit because we have 6 or 9 options depending on the combinations here. So first of all, the palette, you can choose any of these preset colors, but you can use these. That's the quick way. You can just grab a color. You can use the grid, which is a little bit more of the same thing. You can see it's changing the color over there. You can use the spectrum, which is much more going around finding the color, exact color you want, or the most effective way for building a website is you can use your branded hex codes. So 277 BCE is one of my brand colors. You see it showed up here on recent colors, and all of these are showing up because I was clicking all the way through that. If I want to add that to my favorites, I can do that, and this is going to stay there most of the time. So then I could say, here's another one, F58B. That's the best we can do in regard to saving a color, or it would just show up here in the recent colors if you just use your brand colors. So back to the text. We were changing the font. We can change the font here, change the size with a slider, or again, when you're setting up a website, you want to choose your headers are always going to be 50 or whatever it is. And what I just did there is I typed on the number and typed it in instead of sliding. These sliders give me anxiety because I got to hold my breath to get it in the number I want. So I always just go over here and type the number in. You can left, center, right, justify, italics, and some other options down here, but we can make the text look the way we want with the color. If you want to change the color of one word in a text element, you highlight the word, you click on this text color button. You can go in here and you can see that we don't have favorites in here. 277 BCE. You're going to click check mark. It still hasn't changed. Don't worry. Check mark again. And now I changed the color of just one of the words in the text element. Let's talk about heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So when we go into text elements, we have H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So the most important thing to know about this is when you're using a word processor, Google Docs, Word, Pages for Mac, the function of these header 1, header 2, header 3, and header 4, primarily in those documents, is formatting. So you want all of your header 1s to look the same. You want all of your header 2s to look the same. And that's how it works. That's not how it works. And it's not the primary function in Groovepages site. So I'm just going to show you that if I pull an H1 in here, and I pull an H2 in here, and I pull an H3 in here, I just did, and an H4, you get the point. None of them are formatted differently. So the purpose for H1, H2, H3, H4 is SEO. And so again, when the Google bots or the new IC Chat GPT has a new bot 5.0 that's coming out, that's going to just be crawling the whole internet looking around. When it's looking at sites, it's looking for H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. And it's basically an outline mentality. So you should, on every page in your site, have one and only one H1. Every single page should have one and only one H1. It's the primary purpose of this page. So this is a good H1. Change how to master sales funnels. So you can see I triple clicked it or highlighted it. And over here on the left, on the text bar, you can see that it says it's a heading 1. You can also see here that it says H1 tag. If you want to change it, you can do that by selecting the entire piece, dropping this down and changing what type of element it is. However, watch, it doesn't change the style. So all we're doing is we're changing that code essentially in the back end of this page. So if you think about an outline, you want a main point, that's H1, and then you have a couple of H2, and then you have a couple of H3s under each H2, and so on and so forth. Let's say we want all of our H1s to be Bebas new, this color, 50, right? You can go down to what's called global style, like plus global style. I'm going to call this H1 and add it. Now, if I go to this element and click global style and choose H1, you can do that. So it's possible to save global styles, button styles, things like that in your actual style editor. So it's a little bit quicker and make sure you have consistency with your H1s, H2s, H3s. Let's talk about buttons. I like this because it actually has what could be a button, even though this isn't a button. And I'm going to get rid of all my little extra stuff here. So first thing to know about buttons is that there are two kinds of buttons and they are very different in their function. And if you don't recognize which button you're on, you can become very, very frustrated. So I'm going to go over to elements here and I'm going to pull a regular button in here and let's put it down here. Right. And you can't see it because here we go. So I've just added a regular button to the page. Regular buttons have different function then this right here is a form submit button. If you look at the up here at the right, you can see it's a form submit. This one is a button. So it's important to know which one you're editing. I'm going to go into this regular button and click the gear to see what I can do with it. So essentially, regular button's purpose is to take an action, send you somewhere, open a pop-up. Let's see. We can go to a page in our site, move to a block on the page, go to any or a blog or a cart or a pop-up inside of our account. So if I wanted to create a pop-up where they can enter the information to get the freebie, I would go in here and say, we're going to choose a pop-up, and we would choose a regular pop-up. And since I don't have any in my account yet, we can't do it. But this button, now we change the text and we say, download your freebie now. And we can't do pop-up because let's do none for now. Right. So the function of a regular button is to essentially take you somewhere. The function of a form submit button is one thing: submit the form. That's it. So if you click on it, you'll see that we can't tell it where we want that button to go because its only function is to submit the form. This is where we change the text, but we don't change anything else about it. Buttons, however, are formatted the same way. So if we go to the background, choose my branded color, which is there in favorites, we can go to the border and we can click on corners and round it. Watch the corners there being rounded. We can actually add a different color border and change the width of that. You can see how that can be added to the button. We can go down here to box shadow and add a little box shadow to make it sort of stand out a little bit. So we can format that, and we would do the exact same thing if we were formatting this button. You can use the exact same functions, styling options. What you can't do is tell this button to tell things where to go. We're going to see in a minute what it does and how we use it. So that's really the most important thing about buttons. I want to show you one more thing about buttons, and you'll note on this one that when I hover over it, it changes color. So that is a feature of when you have it selected of the states that are up here on the style bar on the right. And so if we click hover, now we can change the background color when it is being hovered over. So I'm going to change it to this branded one. So we've only changed it for hover though. So if we go back in here and hover, you'll see that it changes the color. And I'm not going to go into active and focus, just wanted you to see how hover works to edit your button. That's the first thing. There are two different kinds of buttons and you need to know how to use them. We're going to come back to the submit button. I'm not going to deal with columns very much because I kind of dealt with that in the run up to this. The one thing I'll say about columns is the reason what you see right here is a 2-column layout. You can do the same thing with complex editing, but for most people, the best thing to use is columns to put things side by side across the page because they're going to automatically stack when you come over here to mobile. So you can see secret 1, 2, and 3. If we go over to desktop, secret 1, 2, and 3, if I click on it and go down here to the breadcrumbs, you can see that it's a layout 3x3. And when I come over here, it's automatically stacked. I don't have to do anything else to make it look good on mobile. So that's one of the most important reasons to use columns besides putting things across your page that look nice this way. This page does not have a list on it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to skip lists for today because I feel like we're running out of time, and I want to show you how to put this all together because I want to get into, let's see, there we go. Here are some tips. This keynote is going to be available in the bonus area. So when you get the bonuses, or if you're an Academy member, you get this. But this is, when you're centering, do not use spacing almost exclusively. By default, push elements down the page. What I mean by that is this image has a little space under it. And I only mention this because if you do it the same way every time, you will not have to search and search and search to find where your space is, because we can literally put space in here multiple ways. If we were, for example, to put some padding inside of this image, that will push things down the page. If we were to go where it is and put some margin below it, that will push things down the page. If we were to click on the next element and go to spacing and put it on the top, that will push it down the page. You see how many ways we can do this. And if you don't do it the same way every time, you can just, when you want to edit your page, you go around, you're spending all your time finding it. So what we do in our shop is every time, as much as we can, what we do is we push things down the page. So that means we click the element on top, whether it's this image or this text element, we go to spacing and we go to margin and we put our number in there. So 40 or 20 or whatever it is that we want. And now we've pushed it down the page. If I come back and I don't like the spacing, I know where to go to find the spacing. That's the main advantage to that. One exception about pushing things down the page is on a block, you typically don't want it right up against the edge. And the way to do that with a block is go to spacing and go to the padding on the inside. And you'll see that it just adds space inside the block that we're working with. And again, it's pretty critical if you want a nice looking site to always have the same padding on the inside of your blocks. So that's sort of the spacing, push things down the page. Let's see, relative to parent fixed width. I talked about that. You can see border. I talked about that. Use hex codes. These are just things you can come back to. One special thing about blocks is that blocks have a layered system that other elements don't. So here's a block. If I go to the background, I can change the color. I can add a pattern, a video, or an image. What I'm showing you here is you can use all of those, but they're layers and they're always in this order. So if you put an image on your block, let's do that. Let's go get an image, choose. I'm just going to go to free stock photos and do puppies. Those puppies on your site is always good. There are 2 puppies. Now, you notice you can't see it. So it's here, but you can't see it because we have the image, but we have color on top of it already. So if we were to go up here to the color and change the transparency, you start to see the puppies show up. So you see how they layer on top of each other, and we could put a pattern on there if we wanted to. Those are the options we have only with backgrounds on blocks. So just be aware of. And this is nice if you do have an image like puppies and you want it to be there, but if we were to turn this color off, kind of takes away from the text on the page. So it lets you sort of put a nice little dimmed version, and you can change your color that you're going to use on it. So change the tint. So just be aware of the options you have for changing colors on a block. All right, I'm going to do a quick announcement if you will give me 5 minutes of your time. So I have what's called the Groove for Growth Academy. It has been highly endorsed by Mike Filsame. I've done a Groove Digital Presents with him. I'm doing another one probably in October, presenting it to the group. Anybody who's used Groove for any amount of time and has tried to go out and find training videos will say the exact same thing. Number one, it's hard to find. Number two, what you do find is outdated most of the time. Number three, number one, what you find is they're 3.5-hour videos of David or Mike or somebody else just chatting and talking about things, as opposed to just giving you the answer. So you find yourself searching around in the video. So what we've done is I have 9 courses, and the courses include a step-by-step how-to for every app. I have the only search engine in the world for finding solutions, and the Groove Answers Fast search engine will let you type in a keyword, type in button, and you'll find exactly what I'm telling you, a 2 to 7 minute video on the difference between buttons and anything you want to find. It's the only one like it. The Groove for Growth private Facebook community, I'm extremely active in there. We have adventure guides, which I've been promising, and I finally got all of the graphics together, and the first one is coming out. What an adventure guide is it's going to let you, there are so many pieces that you have to put together to make something work like what we're doing today. And it's one of the hardest things about Groove is knowing which app you need to do this in and which app, and then how you put them together. So an adventure guide, the first one we're putting out, is how to create a lead magnet funnel. And it starts at the top. Do this, do this, do this, do this, app by app, how to put it all together. So that's what those are. Live Q&As, similar to this, where people come on and ask their questions. And I have also an AI search solution that is growing. I call her Groovy Greta, and you can ask her a question and she'll give you step-by-step answers. So there's a quote from Mike. I appreciate his support. Bald from pulling my hair out until I joined the academy and started listening to Kevin. He's very active in Facebook and will answer your questions. Yeah, I really work at that. Live Q&A is fabulous. Thank you guys for chiming in here. Highly endorsed by Cadence. All right. Thanks, guys. So that is at the link that's in the chat. Would love to have you sign up and join today. Let's talk about GrooveMail form setup. So The GrooveMail form setup we've already done. What we need to do is we need to add the form to the page. So I realize I'm not, finishing up this page really nicely, but you're getting the principles of how to make changes. So this came up not that long ago, right? So if you go onto this template, you'll see that there's a really, really nice looking form here. And this is painful for a lot of people, but the first thing you do when you want to put the GrooveMail form we just created onto the page is you're going to see that this is currently a container inside a form container. And we're going to go to the form container itself and just delete it. So we have no form on the page at this point. So the second step we're going to do is we're going to go up here to Elements on the left, click Groove Apps. It's right at the top. Choose the GrooveMail form element, pull it in, and let's put it in here. And we get a placeholder, which is now ready to be configured. So we're going to click on the GrooveMail form. We're going to click on the gear and we're going to say, select the GrooveMail form. Now I just built one called September 2023. I can select that. And if I don't use the presets, so you have two options now. We didn't used to have this. You can use the presets, which would be the colors and the style and the redirect link, all of the things that we set up over in Groove. If we use the presets, we select which preset we're going to use. And in my case, it's I think it's my branded form preset. I've done too many examples of these. If you want to edit the form also, you can click here. I'm going to do it this time without using the presets and see if that makes a difference. What we can do if we don't use the presets is I'm going to click on the form. And you can see now that I'm on the GrooveMail form. I'm going to go to the size, make it relative to parent so it goes to the full width. And then what we can do is we can restyle any part of this that we want to restyle, including the button. So now I'm going to go to the button and I'm going to go change the background to this, and I could change the hover. It has a different hover there as well. Well, what I've just done is I've added a functioning form to the page where they can put their email, their first name, and I must have left that "how can I help you" on there, which is fine. But this form, remember we set up, this form is what facilitates sending them the email with the freebie. So let me go to this background and we'll make it this. There we go. Get rid of this, save this, and that's it. This will work now. What we're going to do, because I want to show you also how to add it to a pop-up. So we just added the form to the page. For this button here, I want to call a pop-up. So I'm going to go over here to Pages, go here to Pop-ups. I'm going to create a new one. We have templates that we can use. I'm just going to grab this one that has a form on it. Actually, this one's a little bit better for me, just like we did on the other one. We're going to click on it, go to the form container, delete it. Then we're going to go over here to Elements, Groove Apps, pull in the GrooveMail form, and we're going to click the gear. I'm going to use the presets and see what happens. I'm going to use default style. I think that's what it is. Update and close. I have a pop-up with the form on it, and you would want to do size here again. I don't know why it comes in. It's not full. Kind of got to click that size and pull it across, but your text, your logo, all of that good stuff. But we've created a pop-up and I'm going to click save. There's one more piece we have to do to make this pop-up work. So we go back over here, we go back to pop-ups and we click the three dots and edit settings. So here we go. The pop-up width, we can change the width of the pop-up, but the most important thing I want you to show is right now this pop-up is not active on any pages in our site. So we have to drop this down. And if you don't do this, your pop-ups won't work. What I'm going to do is say, I want this pop-up to be available on the home page. Make sure you do this or the pop-up won't work. We can also change an animation. So let's make this bounce in and we'll bounce out right just for fun. And check mark, and we could rename the pop-up if we want to, but we're just going to leave it at pop-up one. And we're going to save and exit. So now we have two places where the form is. One is right on the main page. And I want to show you how to activate this button. So we're going to link to a pop-up. It's a regular pop-up called pop-up one, and click update and close. So we now have two places where the form is where they can fill it out. Let's do save. And before we finish these, we want to do something with the thank you page. This template that I brought in already had two pages. I think this was my example page. I'm going to delete it. So this already had a thank you page, and we would do the exact same things with the thank you page that we did. Here's your book is ready, make the changes. They put a button on the page. The most important thing that I wanted to show you here is we need to go to the settings for this page and change the URL. Because again, in our text, remember the presets is sending it to the URL. This is the URL that it's going to go to. So we're going to put that in here and make sure that when we publish this, the preset is going to take them to the right place. I'm going to check mark, and we're ready to go. If you have a one-pager that you didn't have a thank you page, an easy way to add a thank you page is to, once you have your home page branded, it's got your colors, it's got your information, you can click the three dots and duplicate. And again, we're going to go into settings for this page, and you can call it thank you. You would put your URL in there. It's not letting me because I already have a page like that. And then you could edit this page as your thank you page. So that's just a way to add a thank you page quickly. I'm going to delete that. What I'm going to do, so we can see this thing work, is I'm going to go publish this, and I'm going to put it on a Groovepages subdomain just so we can see it. I'm going to put publish, and it is done. I'm going to go to this website, and it's out there live, ready to go. I published this on a Groovepages subdomain. If I wanted to publish it on one of my custom domains, I would go to hosting options, choose custom domain, and then I would choose the domain that I've got to publish it on. And you would select the location root. So this button right here was the one that called the pop-up. So when we click on that, you can see the pop-up bounced in there. We would put our name and email on. I'm not going to use this one because this one is tied to that, remember that URL, that link that I created in the other form. But this one was set up within, we're going to say Kevin, submit. Oh, I'm not on the live site. That would help. Let's try it again. Should take us to the thank you page that we created in the form. And because I added it, this button should open up the download your cheat sheet, click download, and that's going to pop into my downloads folder. If y'all want to hang around a little bit, I will show you how to make your thank you page an upsell page. We're not doing all the setup. However, if you go to workshopbonus.yourbestgroove.com, workshop bonus, let's try that one. All right, let's see where that. Yep, it's just a simple sign up page where you can put your name and your email in. And what it's going to do is, the reason I mention it here again is because what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to the thank you page, and I'm going to make it a, but wait, there's more, right? You know, you should buy this other thing, copy, design, all of that. What I want to show you is how to add the checkout directly to the page. So you go up to the Groove apps, and you're going to check GrooveSell checkout form. And I'm going to put it on the left side here and get rid of this image. Now, the reason I mentioned bonus videos is because in the bonus area, you have access to what I call GrooveSell Quick Start. And it's 3 fairly short videos where if you follow those 3 videos, you can set up everything to get a checkout ready to go onto your page. So I've already done that. Everything is already there. What I'm going to do is click on the checkout and click configure. And I'm going to say use a GrooveSell checkout. I'm going to select product funnel, and you're going to understand all of this from the quick start. I'm going to check the Groove for Growth Academy, and I'll select the workshop special. So I've just said, what product am I looking at inside of GrooveSell? What checkout do I want to use? And I click update and close. And now everything that was set up over in GrooveSell comes over here on my page. And I'm going to do the same thing relative to parent. And you can see that now the checkout shows up here. And if you were to end up on this thank you page, you could make your purchase. And once you make the purchase, it can take you to that final thank you page. Or typically with something like this, I put a little piece of text in here, actually a link. Let's do this. Let's go to buttons, standard, grab a link, a text link, and I'll put it below there. And this would send us then to the actual thank you. So you give people you put 2 thank you pages in your site. One is if they purchase, they're going to go to the thank you for your purchase. The second one is you just send them to a thank you for downloading the freebie. I don't have all those pages in here, so I'll just say put them back to the home page after they do that. And then it's a little link down here that if they want to click on, they can go to a second thank you page. But that's how you add a checkout to your page, and how to set up the checkout is all in the bonus videos. And again, if you're in the Academy, you have access to the complete course with all of the options, but that's how we do that. Phew! If you made it through that video, you are a rock star. I hope it was helpful for you in learning how to use Groovepages to build your own lead generation funnels. I want to make sure you are aware that we do the free live funnel build workshop every 3rd Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And you can join us by clicking on the link in the description, as well as going to yourbestgroove.com/free-workshop. You can also join the Groove for Growth Academy, which is a place where we have resources for every app that Groove has. We have complete online courses. We have live Q&A. We have a Facebook group that's interactive. We have the only search engine available for Groove. And you can find out more information about that at yourbestgroove.com/academy, or click the link in the description. All right, until the next video, let's keep grooving.